What's up, everybody? Appreciate you joining my live. I'm back again tonight with another coding challenge. Um, I think this is it's an easy Leetcode.com premium called Meeting Rooms. I'm gonna give it a few minutes to let a few people join. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna get started pretty soon here on this coding challenge. So appreciate everybody joining. Um, and yeah, without further ado, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. This problem is from Leetcode.com called Meeting Rooms, and it goes as such. Given an array of meeting time intervals where interval I equals an array with start I and end I times, determine if a person could attend all the meetings. So in this example here, it shows an array of arrays, and it looks like this would be the start time 0, and this would be the end time 30, and then this will be another meeting where it starts at 5, whatever 5 is, and ends at 10, and then it would be a third meeting where it starts at 15 and ends at 20. And basically the question, you need to return true or false whether a person could attend all these meetings. As in, I guess there's like no overlap between the meetings where somebody, couldn't potentially, they couldn't be in two meetings at the same time, basically. And so we need to be able to determine that. And then this example you see is 0 to 30, 5 to 10, 15 to 20. You can tell from 0 to 30 and 15 to 20 that somebody can't be in the 0 to 30 minute meeting or whatever time this is, and the 15 to 20, because 15 and 20 is in between the range of 0 and 30, as well as 5 and 10. So it's just not possible to be in both meetings at the same time. And then this one is true because it's 7 and 10, 2 and 4. So somebody could go to the 2 to 4 meeting and still attend the 7 to 10 meeting. So it looks like there's constraints here. There are amount of intervals that could be 10 to the 4th power number of intervals. The intervals themselves have 2 items in it, which that makes sense. And then 10 to the 6th power is the 0 to 10 to the 10th power is the start needs to be greater than end, and end could be anywhere to 10 to the 6th power. Well, I don't know what end time is 10 to the 6th power. Maybe that's in seconds. I don't know. That's crazy. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started here, not to take too much of your time or my time. And I'm sure people want to see how we do this. So, like I like to start all my problems off is thinking through it in my mind, how I could solve it, and then trying to apply the solution I come up with to code using data structures and algorithms that I'm familiar with, that I've used to solve problems in the past, putting it together with code. But first, whether I do it in my mind or with pen and paper or with the keyboard typing out, examples, the first thing I like to do is like think through it and talk through it in that way, and then I can try to figure out how to do it through the code. So the first thing I'm thinking when I look at this problem is I can't really think of any data storage you would use for this. The first thing I'm thinking about is that we need to find where the overlaps are. Like no meeting can overlap, because otherwise the person can't be in that meeting. So the main thing I need to detect is if there's some overlap between even one of these. So the first thing I'm thinking is that I could brute force it and simply compare every single meeting to every single other meeting, and then see if they overlap each other. Like see if either the end of this one is greater than the start of this one, or the end of this one is greater than the start of this one. And then I could do it for all combinations. That would be brute forcing it. That would be n squared, because I'd have to go through each of these and for each of these I have to go through the rest of the list again. So it's n times to go through this list once, And then for each item, I have to go through the list again to check it against every single other thing. So that will be n times n time complexity to do so. Big O of n squared to do that, which is a valid solution. If you can't think of anything else, that is definitely a valid solution to go. But I want to think about how maybe I can do it in less time complexity. And the one thing that I could do, and this is kind of intuition, a trick of the problem. This is not something I probably would have thought of on my own. I just thought of it because of doing problems like this before, or doing this problem before. I don't know which. But if I sort this thing first, it's one of the tricks in your toolbox is sorting. If I sort this first by the start times, then it should be easier for me to check one by one if there's an overlap, and then only go through this string n times. So like 1, 2, 3. So just like a linear, like going through the loop at a linear time. So I think sorting this first would be a good solution. So then I could say, if these are in order, like here, these are in order as far as the first start time. So 0, 5, and 15. And so I can easily check, is 30 greater than 5? So that means you can't go to this meeting because you're still in this meeting at 30. And once I check this, I can say false. They can't do this meeting. And then here, if I sort this, and this problem kind of gives it away, but if you sorted it here, you would know that 4 is less than 7. And since everything's sorted, then you would know that you're able to join the next meeting. And the thing is, the start time is guaranteed to be less than the end time. I mean, how's a meeting going to end before it starts? So it just makes sense anyway. So with that being said, that's the solution I think I'm going to go with. I know that sorting an array is time complexity of n log n. So that's smaller than n squared. And I know I would go through the loop n times, but that would be kind of dominated by the n log n time complexity of sorting the array. So yeah, that's what I'm going to try to do here. And yes, sorting does, as somebody said, sorting adds more complexity. For sure it does. So can you think of a way to do this without sorting it that's faster than sorting? Because if you do it by brute force, that's n squared. So that's worse time complexity than sorting. Sorting is faster than n squared. So if you can think of a way to do it, I'd love to hear it. I'm sure there is. I don't know about it, but I would love to hear it for sure, because it's all about trying to get better here for sure. So moving over to the code, for anyone that's just joining, I have the problem description up here at the top, so you can still see that. That's one thing I didn't do in the last couple meetings. But there's a function. This is sorry, not GitHub, but this is Leetcode.com, and then they go ahead and put like a function statement for you. And so how I can start this off is, what was I saying I was going to do first? I was going to sort first. And somebody mentioned heapify brings down the time complexity to big O of n. Heapify, if you mean heapify by sorting, if you mean like a min heap or a max heap, then that's basically the same thing as sorting it. So I don't think it will bring it down, because if you build a heap that has to sort it, then you're still sorting. So you still have n log n. It takes n log n to sort it. So it's a good solution, but I think it's the same time complexity as what I'm trying to do. So anyway, the first thing I said I was going to do, thanks for that comment, by the way, because it's a good thinking. Sorted intervals. I'm going to make a variable called sorted intervals. Like I said, the first thing I want to do is sort. So let me see if I can remember how to do this in JavaScript. So I think so things like this, you just have to know how to do. It's really not any intuition. If you're in an interview setting, they might let you look it up if you forget how to do something, but sometimes they won't. It just depends. And the thing I want to do here is I need to sort. So I want to sort the, going back over here, I want to sort the start times so that I make sure all the meeting start times are in order. And I make sure that I end the first meeting that I started that I'm stuck in before I get to the next one. So I need to start with the start time of the lowest meeting. So that would mean I would take A in the index 0, since the start time is at index 0, minus B at index 0, which would return the sorted interval sorted by their index 1. And so now I have the sorted intervals, and I can run something to check that. And sometimes in interview settings, you might not be able to do this. If you're on a job, of course, you can just do this and you want to check your output. But what I can do, this is going to be incorrect, but what I can do is just simply check this output to make sure I get what I think I should get. So for case 2, starting with 7 and then 2, it should be sorted to 2 and 7, which is what I expect for the sorted interval. So I'm going to delete that. And so for sorted intervals, now the next thing that I said I was going to do is check. I'm going to go one by one through my sorted interval list, and I want to check. So now I have this sorted interval list. I want to check that the next meeting isn't starting at any given point. The next meeting isn't starting before the last meeting ends. If it does start before the last meeting ends, then I know that I can't attend all meetings and I should return false. So like, let's say, but in this case, 7 start, the next meeting starts 7, the start time is after the first meeting's end time of 4. So in this case, it's true. But for my other case, if you see here, this meeting starts at 0 and ends at 30, but the next meeting starts at 5. So there's no way a person can go to this meeting and then go to this meeting at the same time, because they'll still be stuck in this one. So once I have these sorted, which this one's already sorted, I can do this check of the next meeting and see if it works out. So let's do that. So how can we do that? Using a loop. If we need to iterate through an array, then we need to have a loop. So what we can do is we can have a loop with an iterator in it. This is the important part here. Because I want to look at the next value in the array, then I need this loop to go to intervals.length -1, because I'm going to be looking at 2 items in the array. I'm looking at the current item as at index I, and I'm going to look into the next interval that is the next interval that's I plus 1. And so I need to end my loop early so I don't run into like an out of bounds exception. Someone said, the Black Data Engineer, when I connect interviews, I encourage this kind of console troubleshooting. Yeah, I'm glad you do, man, because I think that's great. I didn't think that was something I would be able to do in interviews, but like a lot of interviewers, they welcome it. And when I give interviews like this with coding challenges, I do the same thing. So somebody said, any insight if a heap is faster than sorting? If you're going to use a min heap or a max heap or something like that, then that's inherently going to sort the array, because in order to put it in the heap, it has to be sorted. So you're basically going to do the same thing as sorting it if you do that. But it's not a bad solution. It's just pretty similar to this one, because you want to put it in a heap where it's sorted some direction so that you can check the values, and it's basically going to be the same thing as this. And it's going to be the same time complexity was what I mean, n log n to sort it. So anyway, I got a loop here, and now what I want to do is pull out this interval. I want to pull out some intervals to check. So intervals. And this is supposed to be sorted intervals, so I already caught a mistake here. I want to loop through sorted intervals. And I want to pull from sorted intervals I. And then I want to look at the next interval as well, because I want to compare these intervals to see if these meetings overlap. And really I can call these like meetings. I can say, which might probably clear to call these meetings actually, instead of instead of intervals. But I'm gonna call them intervals for right now. And all right, shut up. Shut up. Yeah, the thing that's Siri or whatever. But anyway, your sort should your sort be subtraction or less than? It can be subtraction in JavaScript at least. That works. I don't know why it works. I think it works because I don't know. I don't know why it works. It's just a JavaScript thing. So that's a good question. So what I can do is, somebody said, why can't you just find a diff? Well, I'm about to do that. So I'm going to say, what do I want to check? If I look down here, I want to check that my end time of my first interval, is it higher than the start time of my next interval? If so, return false, because there is a meeting overlap and I can just quit the algorithm at that point because I found an error. I found an issue where I cannot attend all the meetings. So if this interval, and this is in index, this is in 1, sorry. It's in the slot 2, but index 1. Is this greater than, is there overlap with the next interval's start point, which would be in index 0, so that's 5 here in this case. If so, we can go ahead and just return false because we've errored out at that point. And I know this is squished together, but I got to make this small so it fits on the phone screens that I'm trying to record through. But anyway, I return false here. And if I get through this whole thing without returning false, then I can go ahead and return true, because that means I can attend all meetings because I never hit a point where there was an overlap with any of these. So you have to check every single one because that's the only way to, isn't it just seeing if another end starts, a iteration fails between, right, exactly. But since I sorted it, I don't have to check every combination. I just need to check in order the combinations where I could potentially find an issue on the first one. But which you kind of do that with the combinations, but the combinations worst case, you're gonna do n squared operations, which is it's not the greatest of algorithms for this type of problem. So, and yeah, somebody said you can return the meeting. Yeah, I guess you could. But yeah, so this looks good to me. What I like to do, and what you may have to do in interview settings, is you may not be able to run the code. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But what I like to do anyway is first look over my code, and then secondly, I like to run through the code with like, not pen and paper, but run through the code by just typing through it, period. So what I'm gonna do is look through my code first. I have sorted intervals. I'm using the sort function in JavaScript, and basically it's a compare function of A and B, and then you run some sort of operation on it. So I have A, B. I'm saying A at index 0 is less or minus index B, and what this does is just simply order these in not alphabetical order, but it orders them in ascending order. Why this works in JavaScript, I don't know. It just works. This is just something like sorting and stuff like this, stuff that you just memorize. Like, I should understand why this works, but I don't. It's just something I memorized from JavaScript. And then I loop through this sorted intervals here. And yeah, I stop at length -1, I equals 0. That's fine. I get out for this interval, I get I, and then for this interval, I get I+1. And then I say, is the end of the first interval greater than the start of the next interval? Then I know it's false. If I never hit this false, I come out and return true. That looks good to me. So next, what I'm going to do is I am going to test this out. So what I do is I just put all my variables out in comments. And I don't know, man. I've seen this done. If you don't have time to do this in an interview, you probably shouldn't do it if you're running short on time. But if you have the time and think it will help explain to the, especially if you can't run it. If you can't run the code, then you have to do this. You have no other choice. But if you can run it, then you might not need to do this in the interview. But if you're working on the job, then of course you don't need to do it. Just run the code. Like, there's no point in doing this really, unless you're just trying to understand at a deeper level. If you're in school and learning, then yeah, you probably should do that for sure. But anyway, so then I'm gonna have result or something like that. Result, which I don't have a variable for that, but I'm just gonna have that here. And then I'm gonna try, this is gonna be my problem. Okay, so sorted intervals, really this is intervals, and then sorted intervals down here. But just for the sake of this problem, I'm going to use this first example that's down here. It's actually this. And so when I run this through sorted intervals, I'm going to sort the first item in the array, 0, 5, and 15. This is already sorted, so I'm going to get that for the sorted intervals. So I'm here at this point in the code. Then I'm going to loop through. I'm going to get this interval, and that's the first thing in there, which is 0, 30. And the next interval is going to be 5, 10. And I don't know what the heck I'm doing, 5, 10, because I'm getting I and I minus 1, where I starts at 0. And then I'm going to check, is this interval 1, so that's 30, greater than next interval 0, which is 5? Yes, that's true, so return false. So I'm already done. I'm literally already done with this problem as far as running through it with this use case. So I could try another use case, but I'm actually pretty confident in this, so I'm not going to do that. I'm actually just going to run this and see if I pass the test cases that Leetcode offers. First thing I want to talk about again is the big O complexity, which especially if you're in an interview setting, you're going to have to talk about that. This is big O log n because of the sorting, the array of n elements. And then I loop through n times, but because n log n is the dominant time complexity in this, then the n is kind of swallowed up, for better lack of a term, by the most dominant part of the time complexity. So it's n log n, but plus n just kind of gets wiped away. And so, yeah. And so then I'm going to run this, see what Leetcode says. Okay, so both my test cases were successful. For this one, I got true like I wanted. And for this one, I got false. And so now what I can do is run it against all submissions on Leetcode against other people on Leetcode and see what I get there. And luckily that was successful. I beat 70 or 61% of all users in time complexity, and I beat 76 of all users in memory or space complexity, which I did not talk about. So let me see if I can get back over to that. So yeah, I didn't talk about the space complexity, but I'm not using any space here. The only thing I can think is maybe sorted intervals, but it's still linear. I'm not using like a dictionary, or I'm not using some sort of storage mechanism. I don't know. I mean, I could kind of even look at this second array I made as a storage mechanism, but I still think this is big O constant time, big O of 1 for the space complexity, because I think even copying an array is still not taking up any space besides, like, it's just setting a new variable. It's not actually like populating some sort of dictionary or something like that. So I'm gonna say complexity. Big O of 1. And then somebody commented, let me see, Asian Angular, something like that. You're copying the entire array, you could sort in place. Yeah, I think I could. I think you're right. Yeah, it sorts the array in place, and then it also returns the array. So I think I could do that, actually. So I think if I just change this to be intervals, and then change all these to be intervals, that's a great idea. I think I'll still get success. And let's see if I increase my speed. Yeah, thanks, man. Asian Angular. So now I beat 99% of all other submissions and beats 85% of all memory. So appreciate that great comment, Asian Angular, for sure. So if I was like in an interview setting, that could be a question that I get asked, like, hey, can you change something, blah, 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 blah. So somebody said, upgrade to Python, bro. Maybe one day. I actually don't use Python too much at all, actually. I haven't used Python at all before. I'm a JavaScript guy right now. I've kind of been in JavaScript land the last 2 years. So this site is Leetcode.com. Yeah, thanks, Asian Angler, man. Appreciate that. That was great. Great tip there, because that helped the complexity for sure. I mean, it helped the speed of the app itself, or sorry, algorithm. So appreciate it. Yeah. Maraji, yeah, this is Leetcode.com. No problem, man. Hope you guys get on there and try it out if you haven't before. This is if you're doing interviews and you're going for like bigger companies, especially, they're definitely going to ask these kind of questions. Maybe some of the smaller ones don't, but even now, some of the even mid-sized to smaller ones are sometimes asking these. But it just depends on the company. Like, but yeah. Anyway, appreciate y'all people joining. I think this is it for me. I'm trying to keep this one short. Please let me know if you want me to do any in particular problems in the future. And thanks for joining. And yeah, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff, whatever channel you're on. Thanks for my people on TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you're on one of the platforms and you want to watch my videos somewhere else, you can definitely move over. And yeah, thanks. Y'all have a good night. Appreciate it.